can't hear me, so you may need to check your mic on your end, okay? All right, now here's the thing. I'm not saying that men have it harder than anyone else. What I'm saying is that the weight we carry is real, you know, and it doesn't disappear just because we don't talk about it. And that's the danger, you know. If we don't address it, the weight starts to change us. We become colder, more detached, and sometimes we lose the very part of ourselves that make us good partners, fathers, and friends. But what happens if we actually allow space for men to say, hey, I'm not okay today, without any judgments? Would it make us weaker, or would it make us stronger? I believe it will make us better. So, right now, let's identify pressure versus identity. Okay? And I appreciate you guys that have joined us. Like I said, I'm not going to have the time to constantly recognize everybody that joins the live, but I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for tapping the screen. Thank you guys for sending the gifts. We do have a gift goal, so if you see it, appreciate you guys helping us out. It really means a lot and it goes a long way. All right. We're going to identify the pressure versus the identity. Okay. One of the hardest things for a man to do is separate his worth from his ability to perform. Okay. Society teaches us that our value is tied to what we do, our jobs, our titles, our bank accounts, instead of who we are. So when life hits us with a setback, like losing a job or going through a divorce, we don't just lose a role, we start to lose ourselves. And that's when men disappear emotionally, even while still physically showing up. We stop talking, we stop laughing, we even stop dreaming because we think we're failing at being a man. I know some of you guys out there that hear the conversation today can truly understand what I'm talking about. And if you ladies are listening, really pay attention because it's a lot of guys out there that's truly feeling the same way. But here's what I think we've been sold a lot on, okay? Being a man isn't about never falling. It's about getting up with it without letting the fall define you, and that's what that is. And that means learning to rebuild without the shame. Okay, it means redefining success on our own terms and realizing that people who truly love us aren't keeping score based on our income or our possessions. They're watching our character, our integrity, our consistency. That's where real identity lies. I'm going to give you guys a scenario that one of our subscribers sent in. Have three of them, and I'm gonna share them with you. We have Marcus. He's a father of two. He had been laid off his job after 12 years at the same company. A lot of you millennials and Gen Zs may not understand any of that, working on any job for 12 years. For months, he avoided talking to his wife about the bills that was piling up because he didn't want her to see him less than a man. He started spending longer hours out of the house claiming he was networking. But in reality, he was sitting in his car at the park, avoiding the shame that he was feeling. When he finally broke down and told her the truth, instead of judgment, she said, I married you, not your paycheck. We'll figure this out together. That moment didn't just save their marriage, it saved Marcus from drowning from his own silence. You understand that? Relationships without a mask. Okay? Let's talk about that. When it comes to love and connection, most men want the same thing women do: trust, respect, and partnership. The difference is we've been taught to filter out our emotions, So when something hurts us or bothers us, we might shut down instead of speaking up. Not because we don't care, but because we're not always sure our feelings will be heard without being dismissed. Okay? And over time, the silence turns into distance. And that distance can kill even the strongest bond. I think real intimacy happens when a man can walk into a room with his partner and feel safe enough to say, that is what I'm feeling, even if it's messy, you know. But that requires trust on both sides. And for men, it's not about wanting to be babied or coddled up. It's about knowing that our emotions matter too. Without that, we're just playing a role instead of living in a relationship that's real. Whose step uncle is this? King, there you go again. You know, I appreciate it. I don't know if I'm a step uncle, but I know I am an uncle. I have a bunch of nieces and so forth. We're talking about men today. So, King, if you are listening, you know, check it out, okay? It may mean something. All right, let's get into the growth and accountability. Being a man isn't about being perfect. It's about being accountable, okay? We all have flaws, blind spots, and areas where we've messed up. The question is, do we own up to it? Or do we hide behind our excuses? You know, growth requires humility, and humility requires courage. It's easy to point fingers, but it takes real strength to look in the mirror, you know, and say, I was wrong and I need to change. That's the kind of man who earns respect, not because he's flawless, but because he's willing to do the work. You know, on a personal story, I recently went through one of the same things with one of my daughters. You know, I'm not perfect, you know, I have flaws. You know, sometimes I can't always admit when I make mistakes. And, you know, I had to apologize, because I didn't want to lose that relationship with my daughter or my grandchild, because of my pride or whatever I was going through. Sometimes that's when that accountability comes in, you know. Accountability also means surrounding yourself with the people who will tell you the truth. You know, I thank my baby girl for telling me the truth, even when it stings, it hurts, bites. I mean, it cuts deep, you know. You can't lash back out. That might be a close friend, a mentor, a partner, or even a child, who refuses to let you settle for less than your best. Without that, it's too easy to stack up in patterns that hurt us and people who care about us. And the truth is, accountability isn't about punishment. It's actually about freedom. Because when you take ownership of your life, it also takes back the power to change it. Okay? Now, I'm going to get into this other scenario from one of our other um, subscribers. They sent it in. I had a few of them that sent it in, and I'm able to get 3 of them in. So I appreciate you guys sending in something that happened to you. We're glad to share it on J&B Live. All right, in this third scenario, we have Anthony. He had a bad habit of losing his temper when things didn't go his way. Now I know a lot of us, may have a temper. Things are not always going to go our way. Things are not going to always be the way we want it to. But it cost him his friendship. It strained his relationship with his kids. It even got him written up at work. One day, a friend pulled him to the side and said, "You got to stop blaming everybody else. The common denominator in all these problems is you." At first, Anthony was defensive, but deep down, he knew his friend was right. The conversation was the start of him going to therapy. And yes, guys, it's okay to go to therapy. Learning to manage his anger and rebuilding the trust he had lost. All right, guys, I'm going to give you guys a final thought, to today's message. And I hope you guys was able to get something from this, or at least pay attention to, what was being said. All right. Being a man in this world isn't about fitting into someone's outdated mold. Okay. It's about being the best version of yourself while owning every part of your journey. Fellas, hear me when I say this. You can be strong and you can still have days when you feel weak. You can be the leader and still ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. You can make mistakes. We all are going to make mistakes and still be worthy of love and respect. And ladies, understand that the men in your lives are not perfect, but many of us are fighting every day to be better than what we were yesterday. We are not our failures. We are the lessons we've learned and the growth that we've embraced. If we can meet each other with patience, empathy, and honesty, then we can create space for real connection, the kind that can weather any storm. So today, let's stop pretending we have it all together and start showing up who we really are. That's where the freedom lives, and that's where love grows. All right, family. If you've been rocking with us today and you know more of these real conversations, you already know where to find us. On social media platforms, we're at Live with J&B, and that's Instagram, Bigo Live, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Hey, you name it, we're there, okay? Make sure you follow us and never miss the laughs, the truths, and the moments that make you think. All of our content, everything that we've done, all of our skits, promos, everything is on YouTube, Live with J&B. But you can catch other content on other social media platforms. And for you guys out there that don't have time to watch us live or to go back and catch one of our episodes, and I'm talking about my podcast people, you can catch us at J&B Live Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast enjoyment from. And that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Deezer, whatever or wherever you get your podcast enjoyment, we're there, okay? Search for us. And guys, make sure you go to our YouTube page. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers. We're almost there. So please go to YouTube, Live with J&B, and make sure you guys subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody that would enjoy this content. We're building a community that's about real talk, real life, and real change. And we want you to be a part of it. I appreciate you guys for joining today. I'm Broker J3, one half of J&B Live Podcast. And I appreciate you guys joining me today. Thank you. And until next time, let's talk about it.